Thompson-Frenk, who came from Dallas to be with you today. Wow. So how about you?
Thank you. Excuse me. I am not contagious, but I have this lingering cough that has been with me for quite a while, so pardon me, my voice is in and out. It is incredible to get to be here with all of you. Can you all hear me in the back? Yeah. Good. Okay, I will try and project as much as I can. My name is Mirela Thompson-Frenk. I am here because of a lot of situations that I absolutely have no control over. And by that, I mean, if I go back, thank you. I just feel like this looks like a little, cheerleader pom-pom. All right. Anyway, I'm here because I have absolutely no control over a lot of situations. You know, life is full of things that you can't control. Absolutely full of things you can't control. Sometimes it hits you on the side of the head and you're like, what the heck happened? And then you find out if it didn't hit you on the side of the head, you would have fallen out of the way of something that would have actually killed you. You know, things happen. Sometimes they don't feel like blessings at the moment that you first have them, but then you realize those situations shaped what you are today. And as women leaders, which every single one of you is, because if you are not a leader, you're not taking the initiative to be here today, to learn something new, to uplift yourself. So whatever it is that you are pursuing right now, if you are a coach, if you're a teacher, if you're in the politics, if you're head of an NGO, if you have a small business, whatever that dream is, I'm going to ask you to do something. Some of you were here with me and Bass, so I apologize if a little bit is what's happening. But I'm repeating it because it is so vitally important. I'm going to ask you all to close your eyes briefly and think about your grandmother. If you can't think of her or you didn't know her, think about an older woman in your life that shapes who you are. I want you to think about what you are doing in your life that she could never take for granted. Could she have a bank account? Could she own property? Could she travel around the world? Could she have a car? Could she take the initiative to be here right now today? Could she vote? You could open your eyes. What are you doing right now that your grandmother's grandmother would have thought would have never happened? We don't think about our lives that way. We think about our lives right here, immediately. We forget that we are standing on the shoulders of generations of women whose blood, sweat, tears, fears, overcoming those fears, everything adding up, led you to exist in this moment right now, empowered enough to say you want to be here. And that's why when you talk about leadership, it is so important to really understand what that means. Leadership is a responsibility. It is a responsibility to say, I as a woman have a voice, and I as a woman have more power than generations of women before me. Now, you may question that, but every one of you has a cell phone right now. You realize in that cell phone you have the means to project your voice around the world instantaneously. You have the means to get data and information. The kings, queens, prime ministers, so many other people before you had enough presidents, had not even had as quickly, as thoroughly. That is a lot of power. Every woman in this room is one of the most empowered women that has ever walked this earth. What are you going to do with that? Really think about that. Really feel that. And ask yourself what you're going to build with that. Because make no mistake, what we are doing today in this world is creating it. You are a co-creator. And as I was talking about earlier, there are things in our lives that bump and grind us and hurt us to our very core. And how are we going to survive this? In my life, I have been that kid that's been in the hospital, sometimes 2 months at a time, struggling to breathe my asthma. I've been that kid that's been in the closet in the dark, with seizures, migraines throwing up nonstop, in fear of dehydration, with all that going on. I have been that kid many times. I have a mother that was bipolar, and she has so many incredible things that she accomplished in her life, but it was a struggle, and there was physical conflict, and it terrified me. These are things that shape me and who I am. And it would be so easy to say, God, why me? And I won't lie to you. And the rest of it, in those painful moments of my life, I've had 3 kidnapping attempts on my life. I've had knives put in my throat. I've had a gun put in my face. It is easy to say, why me? But sometimes the more powerful thing is to say, why not me? I'm not so special that life has to step around it and make an excuse for me. But why not me to take that power, to take what could cause fear and turn it into strength? Why not me to say that I will rise from that? Why not me to say I will not just let life roll over me? Why not me to say I will dare to have compassion and empathy in a world that seeks to strip it away? Why not me? And that's what I want to ask all of you. Ask yourself. Ask yourself when you wake up in the morning and you look in the mirror and you're brushing your teeth or tonight, why not me? Why can I not be that voice? Why can I not be that one that is getting the attention in front of the room, that's being seen on the news, that's in the newspaper? Because I have something to say. I come from a legacy of women that have sacrificed for me to stand here today, to use all of the blessings. And some of those blessings are the things that made you strong. They didn't feel like blessings at the time, but they made you strong. And just like when you're lifting weights, the person that's lifting weights all the time, someone tosses a heavy ball, then they can catch it. A person that's working on movements, they can be act and dodge. Those things prepared you to be nothing less than a remarkable woman. Why not you? Feel it in your bones. Why not me? Say it with me. Why not me? That did not seem like you believed it.
Why not me?
Why not me? Why not me?
Why not me?
Now, something I was talking about earlier, someone was mentioning that I spoke yesterday. When you take up space, think about your strength. I don't have a chair right here, but I demonstrate in the air. As women, we sit down and we make ourselves small. Men sit down, they sprawl. They take up all the space they can. They walk in a room. If they're going down the street, you got to watch out for their elbows because they'll just shove you out of the way. How many of us are going down London and we're just doing this? I mean, we learn to adapt, to bend. There's strength in that flexibility, but there's also strength in holding your space. When I was adopted, my dad had already had 3 children before me. One of my sisters in her late 70s. I have a brother that's in his 60s, brother in his 50s. I'm in my 40s. Dad's seen the spaces out every decade. I don't think that's intentional. But when he had me, he said, I've already raised one kid the traditional way. I'm going to do an experiment. I'm going to raise this kid like a man, and her femininity will take care of itself. And what that meant for my education growing up, he was the CEO of a major corporation. He would have me sit in the room and say, I want you to sit in the corner. I want you to watch. Don't say anything, and I'm going to quiz you after. Afterwards, he'd say, you had something to offer you didn't put on the table. Who was lying? Who was nervous? Who didn't tell me the full truth? And he taught me to observe, to look. He taught me to walk into a room, and without saying a word, to stand and hold my presence. It's called parade rest. Pharaohs stood here. Men still stand here. Generals still stand here. Women are like this. Men stand, they take up space. I could walk into a room right now without saying a word and let you know I'm a formidable force. I've spoken to women, with WISE. It's a group of people that, help people in the Muslim world, and there's a group of women. Some have snuck out and workers from Afghanistan. Some were free as you and I are from Malaysia, and everything in between. And we were in this room, and they asked me to try and teach them about, how to use your body. And some of the women, they came in, and I said, I'm going to show you photographs. And one of the photographs was a woman in a burqa, but she was standing against the wall like this. And she took up space. Another woman was in what we think of as a Western power suit. She was like this. I said, who's more powerful? They said the woman in the burqa. It is not always what you're taught culturally. It is in your body language because that is in your genetics. But we have not been taught as women to claim our power. And I'll tell you a secret. when you wake up in the morning and you have a cold and we all feel like crap, have you ever noticed that when you force yourself out of that bed and you put your makeup on, you can kind of trick your brain and, wow, I actually feel a little bit better. I certainly didn't feel like putting stuff together, but now I feel better. It works on the body elsewhere too. So if you are nervous and you're not sure you believe in yourself, but you walk into a room, you take up your space, that energy comes up through your legs and holds your ground, and you discover that your body already knew you had what it takes to be confident. The body can inform the brain as much as the brain can inform the body. Use it. That is part of your arsenal. The other thing that I would talk to you about is as women, we have empathy. People say, oh, women are so emotional. Men are emotional too. That's why we have wars. We have emotions, but we use them in different ways. And our emotions make us remarkably empathetic. That is not something that is, occurs. That is not something that makes you somehow weak. Empathy is an incredible source of strength. Empathy is reconnaissance. Empathy is the ability to step outside myself and see out of your eyes. It doesn't mean I agree with you. I need to understand you. Right now, we're hearing all these politics. Don't worry, I'm not going down the political thing. I'm just using this as an example. You look in the Middle East. How many politicians cannot step outside and say, I understand the terror from their eyes. Maybe I hate them. Maybe I disagree with them. But I understand the terror. I understand the fear. If we can't step outside ourselves, we're doing repeat things. When we step outside ourselves, we discover what the other needs. I shared yesterday one of the wonderful things in my life I was blessed to do, which was negotiating a treaty between the Hopi and the Navajo, the first in 300 years. People said it couldn't happen. And as I shared with them the other day, when we did this, I had no idea that the first 3 people that attempted to do this all been killed. 2 had been run off a highway, another had been shot in the head. I was very young, naive, said, let's do it. And it's what I call a God moment. And in that moment, I walked in that doorway, and my husband and I, we had invited all these spiritual leaders from around the world. Some were Western, some were Eastern, some were Indigenous, some were New Age. And we asked them to come together, and I had said, hey, let's decide what 10 things we can agree on. Crazy thing, I was in my early 20s, they agreed to do it with me. My husband was doing this documentary. Tony Estrada, our producer, who happened to be Navajo, walking through my front door around 2:30 a.m. in the morning. He and I ended up standing side by side, and just as happenstance, the phone rings. He heard from the chief of the Navajo, I heard the chief of the Hopi, and they both said, this woman and these 3 men showed up today, and they said, we want to slurry. That means move the coal from one area to another area, and it's going to contaminate one of these tribes' water systems. But they like us better, so we signed the dotted line. They'll keep our water pure. Well, think of a donut. The donut hole is the Hopi, the donut is the Navajo, and the water is a big spider web. The idea that you can contaminate one and keep the other pure is just, I need to use good language here. So, we said, don't sign anything, don't sign anything. So I got them John Perkins' book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, which talks about how the world works. And I sent it to them for about, and said, if you can agree to meet at the end of this week, I will make sure make that happen. Instead, they called me 3 days later and said, we'll do it. People had said they would refuse to sit down together. But we just gave them a hint of what else was out there. Let them know that there is another player besides themselves at work. When we sat down, they really didn't like each other. We had some water that was really fizzy, some water that was flat, and we didn't think about it, and the Navajo picked it up because the day before, some Hopi teenagers, being typical teenagers, had heard the rhetoric from their parents and had taken out by beating up, some old Navajo. So the tension was so high, she takes a sip of this water, spits it all over me, goes, you're trying to poison me. We had to get past that kind of tension, and we did it by inviting people to places, for example, a Thai restaurant or a Japanese restaurant. People that had never used chopsticks before were forced to sit next to each other because of the way we sat. And the only people they could laugh about their ridiculous situation was someone from the other tribe. By default, they still didn't have more in common. Then one day, when we're all meeting to have this negotiation, there is a moment where we're like, okay, we're missing the chief, someone needs to go get him. Okay, we're missing out. Next thing I know, all the Hopi are gone. So we're not Hopi. Next Next thing I know, all the Native Americans are, what is going on? We go to find out there had been a shower that sounded like the rainfall, and they were all sort of trained. They kept taking turns training on. Those funny moments of humor help them recognize their common humanity. And when they recognized their common humanity, it was easier for me to bring out a chessboard and show them all the pawns on one side of the board and say, every one of your tribes is one of those pawns. There is never in the history of mankind been a situation where one pawn defeats the entire other side of the chessboard. A corporation is thinking like an entire side of the chessboard. So I have to come in and tell them all the horrible things. And so thankfully I had a father who had ethics and morals, but he wanted me to understand how the world works. So I'm going to stand here and tell you, and I came up with one evil thing after another off the top of my head. So I come in here and copyright the DNA of your corn, you can't grow it. One thing after another. How are you capable of such vile, evil thinking? Like, unfortunately, really easy. It doesn't help you to proceed in the way you wish the world is. You have to act the way the world actually is. You can't pretend it's something else and walk in your own bubble. You have to see what is the lay of the land. Understand that lay of the land. Strategize for it. I like to talk about something called social aikido. Sometimes we are, David, looking at Goliath. Maybe that's a law you're worried about. Maybe that's a big industry you want to be a part of. And it seems insurmountable. And you're looking at, it is realistically, you don't have the clout. You don't have the man force, you don't have the money, you don't have whatever. What you do have, Aikido is a very unique martial art. If you look at someone who does Aikido, you can see a tiny little person defeat some huge sumo wrestler. And the reason is because they take the other person's energy and they redirect it. So if you have two Aikido masters and they're supposed to fight, and they look at you, nothing would happen. Instead, they look at what the other person does and redirect it. Social Aikido is the term I like to use for what is the other person. Now that you've been empathetic and you can understand what they're thinking, why they're thinking, turn that into the direction that you want it to go. You will never win somebody over by your values. You will win somebody over by their values. When I was speaking at the United Nations, I had a young man come up to me afterwards and he said, I'm about to inherit the largest oil company in Russia. My grandfather wants me to take the reins, and I care deeply about the environment. Now, I cannot get this man to care enough about the environment to say we need to do solar, we need to do wind, we need to do other things. It won't happen. I said, well, how old is he? He said, 83. I said, first of all, you're not changing him. But what you can do is think about him. How would you describe it? He said, well, I'm not naive to be able to be in this position. My family has basically been a mafia for generations. I said, okay. So what you're thinking is that here's a man that's interested in solidifying power, influence, money, all of that. That's what he cares about. And his knowledge base is oil, so he knows it's finite. Try going to him and say, Granddad, I know you put so much work in, and those who came before you put so much work in, into putting our family in a position of power and influence and making sure we have a good money stream coming in. But you know as well as I do that oil is finite and could run out in my children or grandchildren's future. So if you want us to maintain our position of power, we need to start investing in alternative forms of energy. The next year he came back and he said, it worked. He let me put all that money into it. You cannot win somebody over on your values. You have to discover, use empathy to understand where they're coming from and apply it to where you want them to go. Social Aikido. People don't talk to people that way. They want you to come along for their reasons, a pure reason. I'm a humanitarian, and I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with people who I know coming in, they care about themselves. I've had people say, Marian, I need to look better. I had someone recently tell me, a multi-billionaire, I don't need your money, I need your name. People are very, very adept at trying to look a certain way. When they want to look a certain way, because, earlier I was speaking with one of the people in the audience, and she was saying how much work she had done in the healthcare industry here, the lives that she's saved. People could very much want to say, hey, can I have a photo with you? Maybe they want one for office. What have have you done that gives you your power, your integrity? That is the most precious thing you have. Whatever has allowed you to build your reputation up is something that you need to hold precious and guard it. You can't buy that. And if you sell it, only you lose out. So hold on to the integrity with which you have built yourself. Use that empathy to do intellectual reconnaissance. Use social aikido to take that knowledge and aim it to achieve your win. And make sure when you're looking at all these different things I'm discussing right now, that you strategize carefully to link it with what you care about. When we were working with this Hopi in Navajo, after I brought out that chessboard and I showed everything to them, I showed them a documentary called The Future of Food, I showed them all these other factors, and they realized, oh my God, we really are on the same team. We actually negotiated that treaty, the first treaty in 300 years. I was so proud of myself. I went home, yay, good, lucky me, good job, Marianne. And then I got my business degree and my bachelor's business degree, and I could finally read the hieroglyphics that were coming in on a trust statement, and I discovered I was invested in the very corporations that were poisoning that water. I held babies thinking they were dying of cancer, and it was arsenic poisoning. And then I realized you cannot make your money over here and wash the blood off your hands by doing good works over there. You have to be consistent. As women, people are very quick to say, oh, that's compassion, it has no place in the world. No. As women in the 21st century, the power that we have is to reshape how business is done. The power we have is to say, we refuse to allow what has been the precedent of centuries before us to set what this 21st century is going to look like. We can come in and say, we advocate for the most vulnerable, for the elderly, for the women, for the environment, for the forgotten, for the homeless, whatever it is that you care about. And maybe you're somebody who's not focused on those particular things, but as a woman, you might have trouble manufacturing something at a slave labor facility because you have kids and you see that kid in that other kid's eyes. As a woman, let that shape your values and let your values shape your business. Because what's going to happen is 100 years from now, or heck, 20 years from now, the next generation, already Gen Y, looking at us and saying, how are you shaping this world? What do you want it to be? How are you defending this? It's not enough to stand in a boat and say, oh, by the way, we have a hole in it. Good luck with that. We have to be the ones to start repairing the boat and say, here's a hole. It wasn't just our generation's fault, but there's a hole here. And as long as I'm around, I'm going to stick with you and try and fix it too. And we have to demonstrate that in how we act and what we take responsibility for. There is power in responsibility. When you embrace responsibility, your voice will rise. Your voice will be felt. It will be respected. Don't shirk from it. And when you enter a room and people look at you and they ask, what do you stand for? I actually had a man, another multi-billionaire, said, you got to know me a lot better to ask what I stand for. I said, absolutely not. I get to ask you what you stand for. You know why? Because I'm another human being asking you to do business. I want to know your values. It'll tell me how you're going to consider me. That's reconnaissance. And then don't just take their word for it. Look at investments. Look at action. Right now, as women, we have the potential in this world to reshape it. We have the potential in this world to invite other people to the table. We have the potential in this world to stake our claim in places that our grandmothers never thought they could walk. I was in the House of Lords with Baroness Berman, and a man came over, and he's just talking to us. And after he left, Baroness Berman and I looked at each other. He'd said quite a few interesting things, and we realized, I'm a Native American woman. Her history is from India. Just a few short generations ago, no one would have dreamed we would be standing in that particular building, having our thoughts heard. One of the funniest moments I ever had is there was a man by the name of Keith Critchlow. He was the world's sacred geologist. No building got built in London without his okay. Amazing man, sadly passed away. But he asked me one day to go and speak at Timinus Academy. And we're standing in this room, and he says, look at the walls. What is the one thing you see? And I look up, and I see painted on the walls in gold, names of men. I looked framed on the walls, powdered wigs of men. I looked at the people arriving, they looked like the modern day version of the powdered wigs. And I turned around and I said, they're all men. He said, exactly, you are the first woman to speak here. Don't muck it up. You will find yourself again and again and again in those moments. We are still breaking them down. You will be the first many times. If you're a woman of color, it's even more so. You will be the first consistently throughout your life. Don't muck it up. You are standing there not just for yourself. It's not fair that you have to work 200% more than a man does. But it's reality. Strategize with reality, not the way you wish the world was. Own your space and understand that what you do and how you hold yourself. And if you choose to refuse to apologize with your posture, with your voice, and what you are fighting for, you refuse to concede, you are keeping that door open for the next person just like you. That is how powerful and important every one of you in this room is. Right now, every one of you is doing something this 16-year-old girl is dreaming about doing. And it might be something that she thought she hasn't seen someone do an example of before. Who are you not to embrace that? And that is what I ask all of you today. Who are you not to embrace the incredible potential and responsibility it is of being a woman in this 21st century? If your grandmothers couldn't own property, if your mothers couldn't have a business, who are you to do less than to be everything that you have the potential to be? Because that is how we reshape this world, is having your voice added to a mix that has not had it for way too long. Thank you.
Wow, that was amazing. Every time I hear you speak, Marianne, it's just like my mind is just blown away from the power that this amazing woman has, and from you can see that she speaks from the heart. She's so passionate about it. She's on fire all the time because she really genuinely wants to see women to reach their maximum potential. And for those who don't know Marianne, yesterday I kind of pushed her to tell a little bit of her story. She was adopted at the age of 5 days. Yes. And then she realized that I'm here for a reason. I have this journey and this story because I have now a responsibility to go and use my voice. And I have to make sure that I put myself out. She doesn't need to do this. She can live forever in Bahamas or in Caribbean or in whatever, in the top floor, and ever have to work one day again. Not just her, but next generation after her. But she wakes up in the morning, and even though she's jet lagged, even though she might have whatever limitations, she knows that she's in a mission to do what she does now because she knows that her voice needs to be out there. So I'm so grateful that she's with us today. We're going to have a group picture and have Marianne in the picture as well because it's such a great memory for you to say, I've met Marianne Thompson-Frenk. Marianne Thompson-Frenk.